my name is Nancy and I am 22 years old. This may seem pretty sudden, but I tragically lost both of my parents in a car accident when I was very young. My grandmother took me in thereafter, and thanks to her kindness, I grew up to become a capable, compassionate woman. She used to always tell me something special, time and time again. Listen to me, Nancy, love, because I want you to always remember this. Even if you may become old enough to be on your own, and even if I am not there for you, you are never alone. Understand? Someone will always come to help you if you are in trouble, so believe in yourself and be strong. Always. Okay? My grandmother was my guardian angel until I moved away for college. And tragically, such a woman, who seemed to be impenetrable, immortal, eternally blessed, passed away last month. She was in the hospital at the end, but her doctor arranged it so that I could spend some time alone with her. Those last few moments together with her were irreplaceable to me, and they were undoubtedly the most precious I ever experienced. After her funeral, I felt as though there was a hole in my heart. I never felt such a strong feeling of loneliness, but there were two people who reached out to me and helped me bounce back from my grandmother's passing. Edith and John. I have a couple friends whom I have been close to since I was a small child. One of them was Edith, the other was John. We went to elementary school, middle school, and high school together, and we graduated literally at the same time. We were basically childhood friends. Don't worry, Nancy, we are here for you. That's right, we are. Don't be so sad, Nancy. People will worry about you. Come on now, take a deep breath and cheer up. Both of them were worried whether or not I would recover from my grandmother's passing, and they often offered me words of consolation like that. And long after that, John became especially concerned about me, and before I knew it, it was like he was always there whenever I needed someone. He never failed to be right where I hoped someone would be, and offer me words of encouragement. Then one day, Nancy, can we talk in private for a minute? I have something important to tell you. What's up with you all of a sudden? I was astonished. John was never the kind of person who had anything important to tell anyone, and he wanted to me. Of all people? He then said something right in my surprised face. I want you to know I've always loved you. Please, make me the happiest man in the world by going out with me on the premise of marriage. I was somehow even more surprised by his unexpected confession. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't find any words. I couldn't believe I'd been betrayed by both of them. I didn't know what to do. Thankfully my instincts did, and I rushed back to my car and left the place as quickly as I could. As I drove away, I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd seen and what I heard. John and Erica were having an affair. They were using me. They'd always used me. All of these negative thoughts overwhelmed me, and as tears started to overflow, I made a mistake that proved to have drastic consequences. I lost control of the steering wheel and caused myself to crash. I managed to avoid all pedestrians, and after hitting a guardrail, my car came to a stop. My head hurts. I was slowly losing consciousness with every passing second. I heard ambulance sirens in the distance, and then I guess I fainted because the entire hole turned black. When I woke up, I appeared to be lying in bed in a hospital.
Oh, have you woken up? How do you feel, ma'am?
I'm assuming you're my doctor, sir. I'm sorry, but I don't remember anything at all. Would you mind explaining what happened to me? At that instant, John strode into the room.
Oh, Nancy, thank goodness. I was so worried about you. Hey, Nancy, answer me, please.
Sir, you must calm down for her sake and yours.
My doctor proceeds to calm John down before giving him an explanation of my condition.
She was involved in a vehicular accident and hit her head in the impact. Consequently, she suffered mild trauma to the brain, and there's a possibility she's suffering from temporary memory loss.
The doctor, who I now understood was called Dr. Morrison, looked at me and continued speaking.
Additionally, from the way Miss Yoder looks, another potential cause for her condition regarding her memory is exterior trauma or stress.
Exterior trauma or stress? What does that mean?
In your wife's case, it seems that she is currently incapable of remembering things just before and after the accident.
So you mean she can't remember what happened just before she crashed?
That's correct, sir. There appears to be some gaps in your wife's memory, currently.
Dr. Morrison turned to John and said in a slightly stern voice, without ever breaking eye contact,
Forgive me, sir, but I'm gonna have to ask you a few questions. Before your wife had her accident, do you have any idea if she'd suffer severe psychological stress? Perhaps the death of a loved one or something regarding her job?
John thought a moment before he said, "Yes, I believe there is." As a matter of fact, John had the audacity to take advantage of my temporary amnesia and started making up stories to suit his own convenience. What were these stories, you ask? Well, Nancy has been having an affair behind my back for the past couple of years, you see. A few hours ago, I was trying to catch her and her lover red-handed, but then she fled the scene in her car. I went on to pursue her, and I later discovered she'd had the accident.
As soon as I heard the word affair coming out of John's mouth, I felt a throbbing pain in my head for a brief instant.
Oh, Miss Yoder, does it hurt anywhere?
A little. I just felt a twinge in my head, but it's going away. I'm fine, doctor. John paid no heed to me and went on telling his bullshit to Dr. Morrison.
I believe this is a primary suspect for the underlying source of her psychological trauma. That could be why she has amnesia.
I see.
He then turned to me and said, "Neither of us know the truth yet. But for now, I suggest we do everything we can to help you recover your memory as soon as possible. Rest and relaxation is what you need."
Neither of us knows the truth yet. But for now, I suggest we do everything we can to help you recover your memory as soon as possible. Rest and relaxation is what you need, and perhaps a bit of rehab for your leg. It isn't broken, fortunately, but the muscle has been bruised quite badly. We'll do everything we can to get you back to your splendid self, Mrs. Yoder. But for some reason, John flew into a panic when Dr. Morrison said these words.
"No, sir, it's okay. I think we should leave Nancy like this as she is right now. Please."
John smiled gently at me and continued.
What I mean is that it doesn't matter if Nancy's memory doesn't come back. I'll be honest, she seemed to regret the fact that she was having an affair. So even if her memories come back, I believe it would only torment her. Doctor, I must ask you to reconsider restoring her memory. After he was finished, he said his goodbyes to the people in the room and left.
"Doctor, do you know when my memory will come back? I just really cannot comprehend how I could have had an affair. I don't know why I could have had an affair. I don't know why. And I do know how it could result in this situation."
Unfortunately, I don't know when your memory will come back, Mrs. Yoder. But first, let's focus on healing your injuries. And remember this, you are never alone. Believe in yourself, and before you know it, everything will be okay. I know it sounds like a cat poster, but my grandmother used to tell me that. And it's something I tell people that are having trouble.
And with that, Dr. Morrison left the room, leaving me with my faulty memory and my chaotic thoughts. I thought I heard the doctor say something like, "You are never alone. Believe in yourself. And before you know it, everything will be okay." Or something like that. Where had I heard that somewhere before? I didn't know. I just couldn't remember at that time. What exactly had happened before my accident? Was I really having an affair with someone, as John was accusing me of doing? Could it just be a misunderstanding? I have no recollection of ever having an affair, but then again I couldn't remember anything whatsoever from my life before the accident. It was like being brought to life in another body. Where did I go today? Where was I about to go? As I was asking myself these questions, just trying to remember, Edith came into the room. She said so before looking at me seriously and adding, "Well, shit! I'm sorry you had to come all this way." Edith started wandering around the hospital room. She started staring at the painting of a rose bush that hung on the wall opposite my bed. I just can't remember anything at the moment, but my doctor said that he thinks it's only temporary. I'm sure my memory will come back eventually. I thought I saw Edith's face contort a little when she heard these words. Again, at the mention of the affair, I felt an extreme twinge of pain in my head. "Edith, I'm so sorry. I really don't remember anything." Edith laughed and said, and left the room with what appeared to be a sinister grin on her face. That night, after all the lights were out at the hospital, John came to visit me again.
Nancy, did you get your memory back yet?
"No, not yet. I just can't seem to remember anything at all, John. When I told him that, John's face contorted into what looked like an evil smirk, reached into his briefcase and pulled out a slip of paper. The paper was none other than a divorce registration form. You betrayed me and committed adultery by having an affair, so I want you to pay me alimony and divorce me.
And again with that jolt of extreme pain. Seriously, I was really starting to wonder why every time I hear this word, it was especially painful when John said it.
For some reason, I couldn't help but feel that there was a connection between the affair and my impaired memory. John, I'm sorry, but I want to wait until my memory comes back to go on with this story. It's no use if I don't remember having an affair myself, and a mere accusation won't go far in court. I believe. Unless you have tantalizing evidence.
He was yelling at me, and that caused a passing nurse on her night rounds to come swiftly into the room. This is a hospital, sir, so I must ask you to keep it down. And it's also past visiting hours, sir. You can come back tomorrow if you need to see your wife.
John, embarrassed by having been warned, turned noticeably red in the moonlight, quickly packed up his things, and left for home. What the hell was John so impatient about, feeling something strange about him? And as I pondered numerous possibilities, sleep naturally took over, and when I woke up, it was the next morning. Dr. Morrison seemed to be absent that morning. Dr. Morrison seemed to be absent that morning, and another doctor was taking care of me. Right when he was doing the routine checkup, John and Edith came hurriedly into the hospital room.
About what we couldn't finish yesterday, could you please sign this? And make it quick. We have an appointment out of town in an hour.
I take a look at the slip of paper and recognize it as an agreement for me to pay John alimony. The price? $100,000. What's this? What's all this $100,000 for alimony? Edith tries to appease me with her soothing, manipulative voice. The very notion of me paying you alimony, with literally no memory of ever doing what you accuse me of doing, is insane in of itself, and then you make the price $100,000? That's beyond reckless at that point. I don't have that kind of money anyway. Now John starts talking.
What are you talking about? You got the money from your grandmother's life insurance now, didn't you? I was the one who recommended your grandma get life insurance. It was all me, Nancy, darling.
Even with my memory gone, my mind suddenly went blank. Could it be that? No, it couldn't be. Don't tell me he'd marry me for the insurance money. That's what I gently began to think, and I started to realize I was going to lose everything. But right as I was about to burst into tears in despair, I heard a knock at my door. In walked my doctor, Dr. Morrison, dressed in his casual clothes. Dr. Morrison, why are you... I couldn't finish my sentence. My voice was cracking.
Miss Nancy, everything is going to be all right now. You leave everything to me.
Upon finishing his sentence, his expression suddenly changed from warm compassion to cold malice and turned to John and Edith. He began to talk.
Mr. Yoda, sir, you claim that Miss Nancy was having an affair, but that's a lie, isn't it? You were the one having an affair, weren't you?
What the hell are you talking about? How dare you accuse me of such a ridiculous action?
I see how it is. I listened to what you had to say yesterday, sir, and I immediately suspected something was wrong. So I took the liberty of doing some research. Miss O'Mara, will you please step inside?
And with that, he invited a woman into my room.
This is Miss Barbara Lee, and she was your waitress at the cafe you went to yesterday, Miss Nancy, before your accident.
The waitress, known as Miss Lee, shyly bowed her head.
Can you please tell us what you remember?
Yes, sir.
And in a calm, composed, soothing tone, Miss Lee told us about the time she allegedly talked with me before my accident.
I had the pleasure of talking with this woman here, on the bed.
And what did you talk about, Miss Lee?
She held a paper bag from a very famous Japanese sweet shop. I couldn't help but say hello to her.
I see. Answer me this, then. Do you know these two?
Dr. Morrison asked her about John and Edith.
Yes, I do recognize them. I thought they were frequenting our cafe as a legitimate couple, but yesterday I overheard them say they themselves were having an affair.
As soon as she said that, Edith immediately started shouting. John also raised his voice and said to me,
Enough wasting our time with this goddamn nonsense. Just freaking sign this.
John physically attempted to force me to sign the divorce registration form and the consent form for payment of alimony. That's when Dr. Morrison came to my rescue once again.
You pricks are so goddamn pathetic.
With that one sentence, the room fell deadly silent.
What you've attempted to do these past couple of days can and will be charged for fraud. If you have anything more to say, I suggest you keep it to yourself until court. I think shutting up right now will keep you from digging your own graves deeper. Now, wouldn't you agree?
With that being said, Edith and John leave the room as if they were trying to escape. I had no idea what was going on, but I did know that Dr. Morrison had just saved me from something that definitely would have ruined me. I decided to thank the doctor. Thank you so much, doctor. Why did you believe me when I said I wasn't having an affair?
He smiled warmly a few moments earlier, but the smile he displayed this time made my heart flutter in the best possible way. I'd never seen such a genuine expression of warm emotion before, and it rivaled my own grandmother's smile in how nostalgic and majestic it was. I don't think you remember, Nancy, dear, but I actually knew your parents and grandmother very well.
It turns out that Dr. Morrison was a childhood friend of my parents. When my parents were brought to this hospital when they had the accident that eventually killed them, he was still a medical intern and couldn't help save them. He regretted it for a long time. My grandmother personally entrusted me to him. So you've been watching over me all these years? Although he didn't give me any verbal answer, I could see it in his face. The tears finally overflowed, but they weren't of despair. They were of pure joy. I divorced John soon thereafter. I later remembered about the affair he was having with Edith, but I didn't file a form for alimony or anything like that. However, friends, family members, and neighbors discovered one after another that they tried to lie to me and use me for their own benefit. Their reputations were shattered, and eventually, family members and neighbors discovered one after another that they had tried to lie to me and use me for their own benefit. Their reputations were shattered, and eventually, they couldn't live comfortably anymore. They had moved away, and as of now, I don't know where they live. My memory gradually recovered, and I am living my life as I did before. They couldn't live comfortably anymore. They had moved away, and as of now, I don't know where they live. My memory gradually recovered, and I am living my life as I did before. I wonder, did my grandma know that something like this would happen to me sooner or later? With such a mysterious idea in my mind, I am now spending my days studying hard to become a great doctor like Dr. Morrison, my new guardian angel. Hopefully, I can become a doctor that is widely trusted by all her patients and makes a positive difference in their lives. Revenge, subscribe now.